Well, hello there. My name is Dan. I'm one of the pastors here at Parker Hill, and I'm so glad that you're taking some of your weekend to hang out with us here. You know, we're one church in 3 locations, so I want to invite and welcome those who are joining us at our Clark Summit and our Wilkes-Barre campuses, and even those who are watching online to enjoy this service here with us. You know, we're in this series called Labeled, and this series is all about the labels that we live under in our lives. Some of those labels that we have, they're true. Some of them are false. Some of them we gain from something someone said about us or didn't say to us. They can come from our classmates, our coworkers, our parents, and our bosses. We even give them to ourselves. And this topic is so important. The labels that we have are so important to analyze because we tend to live up or live down to the labels that we have collected over the years. And living under our labels can distract us or it can discourage us from going after the life that God has for us. And so each week we're talking about a label that we have, and we're talking about a label that God has for us as well, the one He wants to replace it with. Because when you see who you are, you'll know what to do. And so this week I want to start off with a question. And after I ask the question, I want you to turn to one of your neighbors and tell them what you think the answer is. So the question is this: what do you think is the top New Year's resolution? Go ahead and tell your neighbor. Great job, Wilkes-Barre. That was great. I heard you. That was sweet. Hey, check out what they are. Here's the top 5 resolutions. You did it. Lose weight, get organized, spend less, save more, enjoy life to its fullest, staying fit and healthy. Those are the top 5 that millions of people in our country set out to do at the beginning of each year. But I have another question for you. And I also want you to turn to your neighbor and answer this one too. I want you to think about a New Year's resolution that you made this year, or maybe not one that you made, but one that you thought about making, or one that you hope to make in the future. But what I want you to do is turn to a neighbor, tell them what it is, and tell them what happened. Go ahead. Exactly. You and millions of other people experience these same 5 facts about New Year's resolutions. Here they are, starting with the first one. 25% of people abandon their New Year's resolutions after 1 week. Maybe that was you. Number 2, 60% of people abandon them within 6 months. And the average person makes the same resolution 10 times without success. Maybe you've been there too. Number 3, only 5% of those who lose weight on a diet keep it off, 95% regain it, and I'm sorry, a significant percentage gain back more than they lost. So now if someone's harassing you about going on a diet, you can say, no, it's actually bad for me, all right? I'm gonna gain more. After a heart attack, only 14% of patients make any lasting changes around eating or exercise. Surprising, isn't it? And the last one. The University of Scranton's research suggests that just 8% of people achieve their New Year's goals. 8%, and I'm not great at math, but 92 sounds like a lot of people who are not achieving their goals. And of course you know all this, right? Because you've been there. I've been there. So many times I've started something new only to discover that I'm not going to see it through. And it's not that we don't care. It's not that we haven't tried. It's not that we're not properly motivated. I remember hanging out with a friend after he had fought with his wife, and we were just chatting about life, and he looked me in the eyes and he said, why do we hurt the people we love the most? He was properly motivated, but he still struggled to change. And what is it about change that makes it so hard? Why do we keep doing stupid things that we'd rather not do? I mean, you get started on your diet, you last for 3 days, that's a new record, and then at night you just start eating, and you wake up in the morning and you think to yourself, this is not what I wanted. Why is it so hard to change? Or it's after a long day of work and you finally hit the couch, and that's when your spouse asks you to help out with something, right? And you're totally annoyed, and it shows on your face, and it shows as you help them, and you think later, I really would love to be more selfless. Why am I so selfish? Or you spend a whirlwind day shopping, and so you're out there the whole time and you're annoyed by the traffic and the lines and the missing items in the store and the people and the prices, and you take it out on maybe the kids that go with you or the people around you. And later in the day, as you think back on it, you think, why do I have to be so impatient? I would love to be more joyful. Why is it so hard? Well, for many of us, you think it happened again. Statistics tell us that many of us are sneaking looks at inappropriate content online. You keep going back? Why can't you be more faithful to the real person who loves you? Why is it so hard to change? You know, the words flew out of your mouth and you couldn't stop them. You are a master at sarcasm, but the one thing you can't master is your tongue. Why can't you be more kind? Or maybe it's just the other students at school, they have what you want. The popularity or the grades or the good looks or the nice things, and you hate them for it. I mean, you don't want to hate them for it, but how do you get rid of these negative feelings? Why is it so hard to change? I mean, who of us doesn't want to change? Who of us doesn't yearn to be more loving and joyful and peaceful and patient and kind, more good and faithful and gentle and self-controlled? And if we could order some of that up at the drive-thru, I'm sure we'd all line up to get it, but it's just not that easy. Change is hard. And after falling short so many times, we settle for a label instead of life change. And that label that we settle for is something like this: I can't change. You try so many times and it doesn't work out for all of those times that you say, I can't change. It's not going to work. Why keep trying? This is just the way I am. But inside, we wonder, is this the way that life really works? Isn't the promise of Christianity real transformation? Isn't there something better than this? Isn't there a way to change? Isn't that what God is offering us? And if He is, what am I missing? Today's talk can be summed up in one sentence, and you're going to want to write this down. And here it is. If you want to grow, there's only one place to go. If you want to grow, there's only one place to go. And Jesus is going to tell us where it is and how it works in John 15, verses 1 through 8. You can get there in your Bible or Bible app. And as you do, let me just set up the scene for you. See, the Gospel of John is the eyewitness account of a guy by the name of John. He hung out with Jesus, and he believed that Jesus was God until God died. And after that, he didn't believe anymore. Makes sense? But then he bumped into the risen Jesus. He watched him die, then he saw him alive, and he believed again, wouldn't you? And so he wrote this biography about Jesus' life so that we would know the facts and so that we would believe too. Now, John 15 captures the words and actions of Jesus on the night before he was crucified. And a lot happened on that night. And we're going to jump into the night at the moment after Judas has left to betray him and after they finish the Last Supper. You know that scene where they're all on one side and they do that famous Instagram post? Yeah, that moment. And they've left the Last Supper and they've gone out of that building and they've gone out of the city of Jerusalem and they're walking and they're going to go through the Kidron Valley and up to the Mount of Olives where Jesus is going to pray at the Garden of Gethsemane. And on the way, there's these row upon row of these vines, these grapevines for making wine. And you can just imagine as Jesus is walking past these vines, he shares this story, this insight, this metaphor into change. And here's what it says. Let's read the whole thing together, then we'll unpack it. It says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine, and neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you'll bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. And if you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit. Change. showing yourself to be my disciples. See, interwoven in this passage, in this metaphor, are three realities, three truths about change that we need to understand. And the first is this: what you do comes from inside you. What you do in life, the actions that you commit, come from inside you. Well, let's make sure we understand this metaphor. See, Jesus is telling us that he is the vine, the central trunk that gives life to the branches. And you can think of it like a tree, if that's more familiar for you. So he's the core, he's the trunk, he's the vine. And the Father, our God, is the gardener. And he tends the vine so that it produces maximum fruit. And fruit is growing into Christ's likeness in three different areas: our actions, our attitudes, and our affections. And the people, we're the branches in this metaphor. Some of us are connected to the vine, you can tell because there's fruit. And some of us only look like we're connected, but we're not. And so eventually we'll be cleared away. So you get in the picture of this metaphor? So if you want to change, you have to be connected to the vine. And all that means is that you need to have a relationship with God. And one of the first things that we try when we realize that we need to change is we try to cut off the bad behaviors of our lives. We go after the actions. And so this is my really handy dandy chart. This is you. Can't you tell? And on the outside here are your behaviors, the things that everyone else can see, your actions. And then a little bit deeper into who you are your attitudes, the way you look at life and feel about life. But at the very core of who you are your affections, what you love, what you prize, what you treasure, what matters most to you. And what I'm telling you is that what you do comes out of you. And when we want to change, we most often go after the outside, which is a mistake. We start changing things on the outside. We start changing our behaviors. We try to make things better by changing what we're doing. And so we see something bad and we try to stop it. Instead of blurting out anything that we think of when we're in traffic, we just try to zip our lip. Or we just try to stop looking at other people's tests, change the actions. Or we just try to stop drinking too much. We try to stop being too jealous, but we go right back to those things. You know why? Because changing our behavior doesn't change our hearts. What you do comes from inside of you, that core. And if your solution is only to deal with the externals, all we're doing is rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. We need something better than that. We need a rescue. And we need a solution that addresses the heart, a solution that goes all the way to the root of our problem. And that's exactly what Jesus is offering. You see, in a few hours after Jesus said these words, he would be betrayed by Judas. He'd be arrested and mocked and beaten and whipped and abandoned. And even though he was innocent, he would be sentenced to death by crucifixion. And on that cross, he would be nailed and he would suffer incredible physical pain as he struggled just to breathe. And on that cross, he would suffer unthinkable spiritual pain as he took the punishment for all sin, for all time on himself. Why? Because it was the only way to solve the problem in our heart. See, Jesus Christ, God's Son, died on the cross for your sins and rose again. And he's offering new life to those who are willing to admit they have a sin problem and trust him as the forgiver of their sins and the leader of their life. If that's you, if you've tried to change and you know it doesn't work, this offer is for you. It all starts here with a relationship with God. And we have hosts today at our Next Steps area who are ready to talk to you. If you have questions about how you can have this relationship that God is offering so that you can experience real change, I want to encourage you to go to the Next Steps area after the service and chat with them. They're ready to meet with you. That's why Jesus says over and over again in this passage that without me, you can do nothing. Without me, you can do nothing. Without me, you can do nothing. Because a branch that's not connected to the tree doesn't grow fruit. You know that, I know that, and it's a spiritual reality as well. If we're not connected to Christ, we won't grow either. See, the single most important step you can take towards change is toward Christ. Yes, I know. Goals can be helpful. Having a family calendar is smart. Having people around you to cheer you on is good. And all of these things are helpful. They're just not central. The tips and the tricks and tools, they're nothing if you don't have this one thing, this relationship with God. And I'm not just talking about starting a relationship with God. I'm talking about cultivating a relationship with God. That's why the most important gift you can give anyone is your own walk with God. See, investing in your relationship with God pays off in every other area of your life. It must come first. Recently, my wife and I were traveling, and we were in an airport, and we were waiting for our plane. And while we were, I just decided to kind of wander around and look through the stores. And I was looking for this magazine my wife really wanted to read. And so I checked like every store in this airport as I walked around. And eventually, I'm kind of wandering back, and she like runs up to me, and she looks really worried. And she's like, "Do you know what time it is?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, "They're boarding right now. We need to go." And I'm thinking, well, I was trying to find you this magazine. She's like, "I don't care. We can't miss the plane." That makes sense, right? I mean, who cares if you have magazines if you miss the plane, right? The biggest thing, the biggest priority is that you get on the plane, you don't miss it, and you end up at your destination. See, this relationship with God is the main thing. Who cares about the goals and the plans and the groups if you don't have this main thing? It's the highest priority. The first thing that you need is a vibrant relationship with God. And the second thing that we learn about growth is this, that pruning is part of growing. Pruning is part of growing. Let's look at verse 2 again. It says this, "He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, and while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful." See, God tirelessly tends to your life, working without fail to transform you more and more into the image of Christ, to make you more like Jesus. Philippians 1:6 tells us how tenacious he is about it. It says, "Being confident of this, that he who has began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." That means until Christ comes back. All right? He's not going to quit. He's not going to stop. So what does that look like, this pruning thing that God does in our lives? Well, the first thing we notice is that it's cleaning. See, a gardener tending a vine would look for these low-hanging branches. They were covered in mud, maybe suffocating down in the dirt and struggling. And the gardener would lift them up and he would clean them off. He would support them for long-term growth and position them for the future. And God does that with you. He isn't out to get you, but to grow you. He'll come alongside you when you're suffocating in the mud of addiction or failure or sin, and he will lift you up. He will forgive you, and he will cleanse you and grow you. See, God specializes in second chances. You know, every once in a while, one of my young kids will blow out their diaper, and stuff will go everywhere. And I'll take one look at that kid sitting in their mess, covered in poop, without a clue of how to get out of it. And I will say, "That's it, put that kid in the trash, we'll get a new one." No, you know I don't say that. I go over to them and I pick them up, ignoring the smell and the mess. And I walk them over to the tub and I gently wash them off until they're clean again. And then I pick them up and I hold them close. And if an imperfect dad like me is willing to overlook that kind of mess just because I love them, what do you think your Heavenly Father does? He is so willing to overlook the junk that you think keeps you away from him, the junk that makes you run from him and makes you want to try to escape. God isn't repulsed by you. He's moving to restore you. So pruning involves this cleaning part, but it also involves this cutting part. Like any good farmer or gardener, the father prunes the plant. He cuts away the dead pieces that are sucking the life out of you. He cuts away the growth that's choking out the sunlight and the space that the plant needs to thrive. A wise gardener will do whatever it takes, will cut off whatever it takes to produce maximum growth. Of course, that means bad things, but it also means good things. I'm not going to pretend like pruning is fun. It's not. And you might feel a sense of loss when God prunes something out of your life that was bad, but you were really used to it and you liked it. But you'll also feel a sense of loss when God prunes something out of your life that was good, but he decided for this time and for this season and for your long-term best, it needs to go. He'll cut things away like that hobby that you're obsessed with or that future that you're consumed with achieving. He'll cut away that ministry that you used to be a part of and that's keeping you from looking on to what's next. He'll cut that relationship that keeps tripping you up or that habit that's destroying you. They all have to go. And God is willing to do it. And I'm not saying all your hobbies or all the ministries or all your ambitions or all your relationships or all your habits need to go. I'm not saying that, of course not. But the ones that are choking out the life, they must go. And like a good gardener, he will cut them away. And pruning can be painful, but ultimately, I believe that we can trust the heart of God. The very same God who was willing to be cut off from the sun so that you could be saved. We can trust him when he cuts out some things in our life. We can trust him that it's for the best. Now, what is God up to in all this pruning? I mean, like, what's his end goal? What's he all about? Well, fruit. He wants to produce fruit and change in our lives. He says it a lot in these 8 verses. He says it 6 times. See, God is pruning you to produce fruit in you. And it's a process. I mean, it starts out in the beginning of the passage as fruit, and then it goes to more fruit, and then it expands to much fruit. And that's what God is after. He rescued you for a reason. He pulled you back from the brink for a purpose. He saved you so that you would serve him. See, God is out to save you so that you turn into someone that he can use to impact lives. He wants to grow you, and he wants to grow your influence, and he wants to expand your impact. So pruning is a part of growing. But the last principle that we learn from this passage is this, that without God's power, you are powerless to change. Without God's power, you are powerless to change. I mean, 3 times Jesus talks about without him we can do nothing. And so he's making it clear, without him we got nothing. Which means, though, that with Jesus we have everything. You can have everything, and you have everything that you need to change. It couldn't be said more clearly than in 2 Peter 1:3, where it says this, his divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of him who has called us by his own glory and goodness. Everything we need, he's already given it to us. This is past tense. He's given us everything that we need for life and godliness. I mean, this verse says, I have all the power to change. I mean, I have everything I need to grow. I've already been given all I need to achieve what I've been struggling to achieve. I have all the power to do it. And why doesn't it feel like it? Have you ever hit that place? Have you ever felt so exhausted and frustrated that you said, I don't have it. I know it says that, but I don't have it. I can't do it. I tried. It won't happen. Maybe for other people, not for me. I've been there. And I used to hate being in that place. That place where I was at the end of myself. The place where I failed so many times that I figured it's never going to happen. But now I'm starting to think that maybe it's not so bad. Oswald Chambers wrote something like this. He said, God made the world out of nothing. And when you realize you are nothing, he can make something out of you. Don't miss this. Let's look back at verses 2 and 3 now together, okay? It says, every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Well, what's he talking about? The word for prunes is also the word for cleanses, for cleans. They're the same word in the original language, which is really fascinating. Because he's saying, Every branch that does bear fruit, he will clean. You are already clean. No. Every branch that does bear fruit, he's going to prune, but you've already been pruned. I mean, it's kind of a curious sentence, isn't it? I mean, like, what is he saying here? This doesn't quite make sense. But here's what he means. He's saying to his disciples that you do have a lot of growing to do, but you have everything you need to do it. And here's what you can always count on with God, that what God requires, he also provides every time. What God requires, he also provides, and he has provided. Well, this is really hard to explain. It's kind of a paradox, but let me try to do my best. The trip I was talking about earlier was a trip out to California. We were going to stay with some friends. And so I had never been out to California before, and so I was excited to get all the way to the West Coast. And so when we flew across the line into California, I could rightly say in that moment while we're still in the air, I made it. I am in California. That would be a fact. That would be true. And then I could have said, well, let's turn around and go home. I've already made it. But I wouldn't say that. Why? Because we were going to land. And we were going to get out, and we were going to visit with friends and family, and we're going to explore this totally new place in this new state that had never been before. You see, it was totally true that I had arrived, but it was also true that there's so much more for me to experience. And that's what happens when you cross the line of faith. When you become a child of God, you arrive. I mean, you are made new. You are called holy, and you are called clean. God does it all in one fell swoop. It happens instantaneously. You have it. And you could say in that moment, I am holy and I am clean. And you can also say, I have so much to experience of being holy and being clean. See, you're already in. He's already done the heavy lifting. Everything from this point is learning to live from a new place. You're changed. You have access to everything you need for life and godliness. Maybe another metaphor would help. Author Max Lucado wrote this. He said, in high school, my brother and I shared a 65 Rambler station wagon. The clunker had as much glamour as Forrest Gump. 3-speed, shift on the column, even seats covered with plastic, no air conditioning. And oh, the engine. Our lawnmower had more power. The car's highest speed downhill with a tailwind was 50 miles an hour. To this day, I'm convinced that my father, a trained mechanic, searched for the slowest possible car, and he bought it for us. When we complained about her pitiful shape, he just smiled and said, fix it up. We did the best we could. We cleaned the carpets, we sprayed air freshener on the seats, we stuck a peace symbol on the back window, hung dice from the rearview mirror. We removed the hubcaps and spray painted the rims black. The car looked better, it smelled better, but it ran the same. Still a clunker. A clean clunker, to be sure, but still a clunker. Now, don't for a microsecond think God does this with you. Watching the outside isn't enough for him. He places power on the inside. Better stated, he places himself on the inside. See, without that power, you're powerless to change, but with God, you have all the power that you need to change. And if you want to grow, there's only one place to go. To God. The word used 7 times out of 8 verses in this passage is the word remain, or in some translations, the word abide. The idea behind this word is to stay, to stick, to stay connected to. And maybe, just maybe, your exhaustion at this point, maybe the fact that you've settled for the label that it's just not going to happen, that you're stuck, that there's no way out of this and you can't change, maybe it's a good thing. Because maybe finally you'll stop trying to change the externals or try to escape what's uncomfortable or try to do it in your own effort. And from that place where you say, I can never do it, maybe from that place, when you don't have the power, you'll finally access his. That's what he's offering you. You see, to remain means to stay close. And so God is offering for you to stay close and to stay connected. He's not telling you to produce fruit. He's going to do that. He's not telling you to find the power or whatever. He's not telling you to worry about that. He's just saying, stay close. I'll take care of the power, and I'll take care of the product. Just like a lamp, maybe. I mean, maybe you're not into agriculture, so think about a lamp. It has to stay plugged in to shine, right? The moment you unplug it, it stops shining. So we need to stay plugged into God to shine. And just like a lamp can't shine without power, we're totally dependent on God for our power. And so our job in this illustration is just to plug in, to stay connected. I mean, what do you do when you lose connection on your phone? I mean, you lose the Wi-Fi signal or you lose the cellular signal. What do? You hold the phone out and you walk around until you can find a strong enough signal until you can connect. You kind of look like a dork and you run towards corners and you go around chairs and you stand behind people and you say, don't mind me, okay, I can send my text now, right? And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about trying to stay connected, that if you feel a distance between you and God, a lack of the power in your life, you navigate until you find that strong connection again. You move around until you have that strong connection again. Now think again about that label, right? I can't change. I can't do it. It's not going to happen. It's just not me. God gives you a new label. God says, you are a branch. And when you know who you are, you'll know what to do. So what does a branch do? Well, it draws life from the vine to produce fruit. So what do? We draw spiritual life from Christ to produce fruit. And so when you stay connected to God, it starts to cascade into all these other areas of your life. So instead of getting fed up at your spouse when they ask you for help, you sacrifice your comfort and you act more loving. Instead of snapping at the kids after shopping, you're patient and maybe even joyful. And instead of sarcasm, you respond with a compliment. And instead of being caught in an addiction, you grow in self-control. And instead of jealousy, you have something else, peace. And instead of greed, you respond with an open hand. And even as you do this all imperfectly, even as you stumble, as you try to figure it out, you still show the character of God coming out of you because you're connected to Him. You show it in your willingness to confess your sin, to be humble and admit when you're wrong, and in your heart to change. So how can we do that? I mean, let's get practical here. How do we really plug in? Well, we could talk about a lot of things. We could talk about app notes. We could talk about those daily Bible readings that we put out every day that you can get in your inbox if you wanted to. Or we could talk about Right Now Media. It's a digital library of over 14,000 videos. It's like Netflix, and it's for free for you on our website, and you could just get that today. Or we could talk about the Spiritual Disciplines Toolbox. It's a bunch of guides on our website to help you know how to connect with God when you don't know what to do next. But what I really want to focus on is something else. I want to encourage you to try an experiment called the 60-60 experiment. And I read about this in a book by John Burke called Soul Revolution. And here's how it goes. You set an alarm on your phone or your computer or whatever, and you set your alarm to go off every hour that you're awake. And when it goes off, you connect with God. You just pause whatever you're doing and you connect with God for 60 seconds or less. It's kind of a simple thing. And so sometimes when the alarm goes off, you'll be reminded that God's with you, like, I forgot. Or sometimes when it goes off, you'll remember someone and you'll pray for them. Or maybe sometimes it will go off and you'll remember to ask God before you make a big decision. Or it will go off and you'll remember to reflect on a verse that you need to carry with you throughout the day. Or maybe you'll just pause and thank God. Or maybe you'll pause and say nothing. That's okay. Or maybe you'll sing part of a song to God. Whatever it is, that's fine. Just every hour that you're awake, the alarm goes off and it causes you to plug back in, to reconnect with God on an hourly basis. The point here is to pause and connect with God. And I think we stop growing, we stop experiencing the power, we stop experiencing the joy of walking with God because we disconnect so much. We just kind of forget that He's there. And I know how that goes. And so that's why I want to encourage you to try this 60-60 experiment. And so I'll be doing it along with you. And if you're gonna take this journey with me for the next week, I want to encourage you to share what's going on in your life and what God's doing by hashtagging Parker Hill and hashtag 6060. You can do it on Facebook or you could do it on Twitter. Include both of those hashtags. If you want to grow, there's one place to go. Without Jesus, we'd be alone in our sorrow and dead in our sin. And the band's going to come back up and we're going to sing about that. About how He didn't leave us there, but He came after us. How he went to the cross and how he won our freedom and he changed everything so now we can change too. And so I want to encourage you to stand and I'll pray and we'll sing. God, sometimes when we open your Bible, we feel like we've been invited to a birthday party. And then we show up and we find out the party's for us. And then we open present after present and we discover that you thought of everything and you've given us everything we could ever need or want. You are so good to us. We don't deserve that. And it's awesome to know that you give that. God, we love you. We love you when we're at our lowest points and when we're at our highest points because you love us at our lowest points and at our highest points. And God, I pray that throughout this week we would reconnect and connect day after day with you in such a way that we never realized that was possible as we try this 60-60 experiment together. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.